The following selection comes from A Spring Within Us, a book of daily meditations by Richard Rohr. In contemplative prayer, we receive God's forgiveness as our failings are washed away with God's love. Then, as we move from silence into the world of relationships, we find ways of extending that mercy to others in practical ways. Buddhists have a meditation that nurtures Maitri, or loving kindness, which can teach us how to hold suffering and awaken compassion. This is the Maitri Meditation. Begin by finding the place of loving kindness inside your heart. Drawing upon this source of love, bring to mind someone whom you deeply care about, and send loving kindness toward them. Now direct this love toward a casual friend or colleague, someone just beyond your inner circle. Continue drawing from your inner source of loving kindness and let it flow towards someone about whom you feel neutral or indifferent, a stranger. Remember someone who has hurt you or someone you struggle to like. Bless them. Send them your love. Gather all these people and yourself into the stream of love and hold them there for a few moments. Finally, let the flow of loving kindness widen to encompass all beings in the universe. This practice can help you walk compassionately with others. As God has showered you with loving kindness, you will naturally find yourself showering others with the same. Close with this reflection in silence. May I see with eyes of compassion.
In Praise of the Earth, a blessing by John O'Donohue. Let us bless the imagination of the earth that knew early the patience to harness the mind of time, waited for the seas to warm, ready to welcome the emergence of things dreaming of voyaging among the stillness of land. And how light knew to nurse the growth until the face of the earth brightened beneath the vision of color. When the ages of ice came and sealed the earth inside, an endless coma of cold, the heart of the earth held hope, storing fragments of memory ready for the return of the sun. Let us thank the earth that offers ground for home and holds our feet firm to walk in space open to infinite galaxies. Let us salute the silence and certainty of mountains, their sublime stillness, their dream-filled hearts. The wonder of a garden trusting the first warmth of spring until its black infinity of cells becomes charged with dream. Then the silent, slow nurture of the seed self, coaxing it to trust the act of death. The humility of the earth that transfigures all that has fallen of outlived growth. The kindness of the earth opening to receive our worn forms into the final stillness. Let us ask forgiveness of the earth for all our sins against her, for our violence and poisonings of her beauty. Let us remember within us the ancient clay holding the memory of seasons, the passion of the wind, the fluency of water, the warmth of fire, the quiver touch of the sun, and shadowed sureness of the moon, that we may awaken to live to the full the dream of the earth, who chose us to emerge and incarnate its hidden night in mind, spirit, and light.
On Joy and Sorrow by Khalil Gibran. Then a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wind the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed with knives? When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say, "Joy is greater than sorrow," and others say, "Nay, sorrow is greater." But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you are empty are you at standstill and balanced. When the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and silver, needs must your joy or your sorrow rise or fall.
To Learn from Animal Being, a Blessing by John O'Donohue. Nearer to the earth's heart, deeper within its silence, animals know this world in a way we never will. We who are ever distanced and distracted by the parade of bright windows, thought opens. Their seamless presence is not fractured thus. Stranded between time gone and time emerging, we manage seldom to be where we are, whereas they are always looking out from the here and now. May we learn to return and rest in the beauty of animal being, learn to lean low, leave our locked minds, and with freed senses feel the earth breathing with us. May we enter into lightness of spirit and slip frequently into the feel of the wild. Let the clear silence of our animal being cleanse our hearts of corrosive words. May we learn to walk upon the earth with all their confidence and clear-eyed stillness, so that our minds might be baptized in the name of the wind and the light and the rain.
The following is a story called Looking Upstream. 3 sisters took their baskets full of pots to the river to gather water. As they approached the river, they saw a baby in the water drowning. Immediately, the first sister jumped into the water. She swam to the baby, gathered it in her arms, and she waded out. She'd saved the baby, but when the sisters turned back to the river, they saw another baby and another. Without thinking, the first sister placed the baby in her basket, and she waded back into the river. She turned back and yelled to her sisters, "Sisters, sisters, what are you waiting for? Come, wade into the river and help me save these babies." But the sisters didn't follow. Instead, second sister ran downstream, and she waded into the river. As the babies flowed around her, she showed them how to stroke the water, how to paddle, how to keep their face above the water. "Sisters," she cried, "there is no way to save all of the babies. What we must do is teach these babies to swim." The third sister was still on the shore. She heard her sisters' cries. "Sister," they cried, "you must help. You must help save these babies." She watched as her first sister pulled the young from the water, placing them into the baskets they'd brought. She looked downstream, and she watched her other sister teach them to survive. Then she turned and ran upstream. Over her shoulder she cried, "Sisters, I'm going to see who is throwing these babies into the river." Each sister saved someone, and so might you, metaphorically, at least for most of us. To seek peace, there will be moments, like the first sister, where we will be asked to act swiftly, to throw ourselves into the dangerous water, for the chance to give another person a breath of air. There will be other moments. We will be asked to give of our talents, like the second sister. It will feel as if we are made for that moment. Finally, we are all called, like the third sister, to use our wisdom, to have the vision to see the greater injustices too.
The prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's darkness, light. And where there's sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born. Amen.
Paraphrase from the writings of Eckhart Tolle. You are the truth. If you look for it elsewhere, you will be deceived. The truth is in essence within all of us. In fact, within every life form. Christian mystics call it the Christ within. Buddhists call it your Buddha nature. And Hindus call it the Atman, the indwelling God. Being in touch with that dimension of yourself is your natural state, not some miraculous achievement. Those who don't get in touch with themselves seem to be more into laws, commandments, rules, and regulations. Love and do what you will, said St. Augustine. Words cannot get much closer to the truth than that.
Isaiah 55. Everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you that have no money, come, buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and delight yourselves in rich food. Incline your ear and come to me. Listen, so you may live. I will make with you an everlasting covenant. For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Instead of the thorn shall come up the cypress. Instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle, and it shall be to the Lord for a memorial, for an everlasting sign, and it shall not be cut off.
This passage comes from Ecclesiastes. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What do workers gain from their toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. God has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction on all their toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it.
Morning is broken like the first morning. Blackbird is spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning. Praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dewfall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning. Born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought or grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world, and am free.
reflection adapted by Rob Brinsney. The Great Spirit wants us to be in love with all creation, not just the parts we personally find beautiful, helpful, and interesting. It is fine to embrace the trees, the birds, and the flowers, but you must also embrace the weeds. There is no such thing as loving too much. Until you have loved, you cannot become your real self. Do not be afraid of running out of love. The more you give, the more you have to give. Everything and everyone deserves our love. Tolstoy wrote, "Love is life, and everything I understand is because of love. In fact, everything exists only because of love."
Psalm 139. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It's so high I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? And where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you're there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will cover me, and the light all around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in the womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed. How weighty to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. I try to count them. They're more than the sand. I come to the end. I am still with you.
Hear this reflection. Mark 4:35-41. That day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was, in the boat. There was also other boats with him. A furious storm came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said, "Teacher, don't you care if we go down?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." In Mark 4, Jesus tells us 3 parables about seeds, how they're always growing, that each new beginning can give way to large transformations. And then this chapter ends with this story about Jesus calming a storm, asking us why we fear. Fear often follows us when we push off the shores into new, uncharted waters, as we transition from something we know into the unknown. It's these moments when we must push our memories, our own stories, our own parables into action. It's these moments we see the fruits of our harvest. Still, there will be moments when we reach a storm and we wish to turn back, to have firm ground under our feet. We'll find that we cannot bear it. I pray we'll find a moment where we hear a voice that says, "Quiet, be still. Why are you so afraid?"